Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch, video number 2, December 1st edition here. We're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Wanted to share some updates here before things get too late. I'll do my normal briefing still tomorrow morning as well, but you can see we've got a windy system rolling in here tonight. We're going to look at some of the high resolution models on what kind of wind speeds we can expect. Big mountain snows, big gusty winds across the higher terrain. Here goes Sunday's system there, picking up some of the subtropical moisture from this Kona storm down here by the Hawaiian Islands. And then we've got our finale back here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This atmospheric river stretches all the way back across the western Pacific. It's also going to pick up some of this tropical and subtropical moisture here and slam it into the Pacific Northwest. Now, looking back across the western Pacific, you can see that storm. Here's Japan here. Look at that tap it's got all the way back towards Southeast Asia. So that is the big one here as we go into the early portion of next week. Current hazard, lots going on here. I mean, we've got big waves. We got wind advisories. We got high wind watches. We got winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories. You know, it's crazy out there right now. We'll try to dive into some of those details here as we go through the video. Mountain pass travel updates tomorrow. Not the best day to travel if you can avoid it. Big time snow across the higher terrain, including the mountain passes, Snoqualmie and Stevens, and very strong winds across some of the higher terrain as well. So heads up for that, especially through tomorrow. But by Sunday, things are going to change and we're going to warm up, like I've been mentioning the last few days, at the lower levels. But then we got to worry about things like landslides and whatnot as well. So more on that here as we go through the next couple of days. But we do have this flood potential pointed out by the National Weather Service. Spokane, for example, the Wilson River near Tillamook, 30% chance of major flood stage there. And we'll go over this over the next few days as well. We've got some serious flooding potential. 1 through 3 day overall winter storm impacts, and the worst of it's going to be tomorrow, and then the travel's not going to be too bad, but you got to watch out for when heavy rain is falling. We can get landslide activities, and there's kind of limited roads, as you guys know, back and forth across the Cascades of British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon, and if you block one of those roadways, you can cause big problems. Now, take a look at the total snow. As we go on in through tomorrow morning, you can clearly see it continuing to pile up across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, higher terrain eastern Washington, Oregon as well. You might get some additional snowfall here across some of the Spokane metro as well. And then we shut it off as we go on in through the day Sunday. And we're going to bring that heavy rain, the warmer temperatures across much of the mountain areas. This is looking at integrated vapor transport here. So we've got the initial system as we're dealing with right now. And that's going to bring the winds to tonight and tomorrow morning. And then we've got Sunday's system here bringing a moderate atmospheric river. This one's kind of trending towards targeting Oregon or maybe the southern Washington Cascades a bit more. But then we've got the big one, the finale here, as we go on in through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with that strong atmospheric river into the Pacific Northwest. Taking a look at the cross-section vertical, a little education here. The atmospheric rivers are usually about 10, 12,000 feet high. So you can imagine when this slams into big mountain ranges here, you can see why we get huge rain shadowing on the leeward side of those mountains. Yeah, it really brings it out on the windward side there and brings huge precipitation amounts with it. Look at Gold Beach Municipal Airport on the Oregon coast. There's some ridiculous precipitation total showing up. In 24 hours, it shows 3.37 inches, and then the next round almost 6 inches in a 24-hour period on this GFS that is hot off the presses here. So we've got to be watching out for some of these coastal areas, the Olympic Mountains. We could have some serious flooding concerns incoming. The European, however, shows a little bit less. You can see 2.88, still impressive precipitation amounts, but lesser. However, for Tillamook, it shows 2 nice shots of 3+ inches in 24-hour periods that could cause some significant flooding. Seattle, Tacoma, this has kind of been bouncing around a little bit here. This morning's European run had 1.72 inches in a 24-hour period. So we still could get some urban and small stream flooding here. A little bit of a downtrend there. However, if we look at the 18Z, you can see it bounced that back up there for Seattle, 2.2 inches in a 24-hour period. The mean somewhere just over 1.5 inches in a 24-hour period. Still a very rainy day for some of the Seattle metro. And this is Paradise Mount Rainier. Check it out. When that snow level goes high, I mean, you're talking about over 4.5 inches of liquid equivalent there. It's all going to be rain falling into that snowpack there with the high snow levels. So you can see why those flooding concerns are, of note as of right now. Looking at the Paradise Mount Rainier, this is the cross-section temperature. You can see at the surface as we go through about late Saturday night into early Sunday morning at 5,400 feet. It's going to be below freezing, but then it rises back up. And look at that freezing level go above 10,000 feet on the European there. So interesting stuff. And this would really be rising as we go through the day Monday. Here's Hoquiam near the Washington coast out there. You can see some of these ensembles have 50 plus tonight. And we have a couple more shots at wind coming in through the early portion of next week as well. Seattle, this kind of uptrended here as well. We've got more than a handful here of 50-mile-per-hour gusts, and the control wind had 48 on the last run also, and then another potentially windy period as we go through the Monday-Tuesday timeframe. And look at some of the higher terrain off to the east of Mount Rainier. Just ridiculous wind speeds up there with some heavy snow falling. You're going to have blizzard conditions out there. If you happen to be in the backcountry, hopefully you're getting this message. Here's Whistler. You can see the windy conditions across British Columbia there as well, with some big snows across the higher terrain. Here's Mount Hood. Look at the big winds showing up here. 1, 2, maybe 3 punch as we go. But this is definitely going to be warming up here as we go through Sunday on into Monday and Tuesday. So this initial one will be some pretty wintry conditions up there, maybe some blizzard conditions. This is Crater Lake, pretty exceptionally windy all the way through Sunday coming up. And you can see that rising freezing level there for Crater Lake National Park. So this is the 18Z European, the latest. And as we go through tonight, you can see this powerful front driving through the areas we go through tomorrow morning. The wind's bound to wake some people up here across Pacific Northwest. Then Sunday system rolls in here, just bringing some ridiculous precipitation amounts to some of the Oregon coast, impacting some areas. There's a kind of a sharp cutoff here showing up across some of the Cascades and the Olympic Mountains. And then the big one arrives here as we really bring the freezing levels up, and we target Vancouver Island heavily and the Olympic Mountains here also with some pretty big amounts as we go on in through Tuesday morning. This would be Tuesday late morning. There's Tuesday afternoon. Now we're into Tuesday night. There's very early Wednesday morning. That's still hanging out here. Not good for some areas on the Oregon coast, as you can see, all the way through Wednesday afternoon. And then there's even the chance of a system behind that one as well. So yeah, we'll be watching those as we get closer. Now, looking at the National Blend of Models, total precipitation, we've already had some precipitation here across the area, and this is going to be added on. And check it out. You can see as we bring that powerful front on in through tomorrow, then Sunday system comes rolling in here, and then Monday system just starts targeting some of the mountain ranges here. So you can really see the cutoff there across some of central California all the way up through the Pacific Northwest. Big amounts, huge rain shadowing effects across eastern Washington and Oregon, BC there, but it picks back up again there as you start to run into the Rockies again. So it shows those terrain features quite nicely with the atmospheric rivers. And we scroll out towards next week and some ridiculous amounts of precipitation showing up there. I mean, some of the National Blend of Model or the National Blend of Model run, this one shows up over 20 inches for some locations. Now, looking at what we can expect wind-wise tonight. So this is the HRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. And this has been bouncing around a bit here, showing somewhere right around the upper 40s towards 50 at times for SeaTac. Look at that, 56 for Bellingham. Gusty along the Washington, Oregon coast, 50 plus, and some really strong winds across the higher terrain, the exposed ridges there, and some of the higher peaks getting gusts well up over 60 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour possible. And you see the windy conditions as we go through tomorrow morning for eastern Oregon and Washington also. I mean, look at some of these wind speeds across eastern Oregon. You could be getting 55, 60 plus out there also. So pretty potent system coming through tonight. This one ends somewhere about tomorrow afternoon. This is the NAM 3KM. Let's put that into motion. And you see it agrees fairly well. It shows a pretty good shot here coming for the Seattle Metro, actually. Some gusts potentially towards 50 miles per hour. And again, you see the powerful winds ripping across Oregon, Washington, all the way through Saturday afternoon. Windy Sunday system could be quite windy here as well. Some of the Oregon coast you can see also. So yeah, scrolling that all the way out through Sunday night into Monday morning there, as you can see some big winds coming in on the Monday morning time frame as well. Now, looking at the Seattle Metro here on the NAM 3KM, check it out, 49 miles per hour, showing right about 3 a.m. here. But the winds will probably start picking up here as we get towards right after midnight there. But they should be dying out as we go through the morning here, probably blustery as we go into the early afternoon. Here's the high resolution rapid refresh, and you can see that 52 miles per hour here on the 03 her run there. So yeah, could be some strong winds, could be some nuisance power outages tonight also. Renton showing up here, probably gusting around 44 miles per hour, at least according to the most recent high resolution model. And Everett showing 50 miles per hour, maybe around the 3 a.m. time frame there. Look at Hoquiam gusting up into maybe the mid 50s coming up here. And this is showing up at about 2 a.m. or so. Yep, Saturday morning, 2 a.m. Actually, let me back that up here because I think that that is not updated. And let's see if I'm right. And I am. So Hoquiam, it backed down on some of the speeds here, but about 2 a.m. Yeah, that was right. I was showing you guys that this morning's run. So looking at Bellingham International Airport, the NAM shows a little bit different here. It shows about 47, and the HER was showing much more. You saw in that last run that I showed you, it showed 56. Now, the big problem here coming up is the snow depth. So you can see us really pile up that snow and build up a snowpack at least for a short time. And then as we go through the day, Sunday into Monday, we really eat away at that snowpack. So that's going to exacerbate flooding conditions. And with all that heavy rain falling, we're bound to be dealing with some pretty swollen rivers coming off the mountain ranges here and the coastal ranges there. So yeah, that's not going to help things out, melting that snow. Here's the day 2 excessive rainfall outlook for Western Oregon. There's day 3. You can see they introduced some of this slight here to the Oregon coast and the Oregon Cascades all the way up through the Washington Cascades, some marginal. And then the day 4, and this is when it starts to point at Vancouver Island, the Olympic Mountains, and potentially the Cascades of Washington also. This would be valid Monday through Tuesday morning, and then day 5, still a slight out there for some of the Washington Cascades down towards northern Oregon as well, all the way on in through Wednesday morning. And that'll probably bounce back again a bit here. Now, this is the excessive rainfall forecast discussion here. So they talk about the moderately to strong atmospheric river coming in here, and then they talk about the next one rolling in here. So they mention it here, an even stronger atmospheric river is prognosed to impact similar areas Monday night, Tuesday, and what is a very active December start here in the Pacific Northwest. So interesting stuff here. Yeah, it's going to be kind of a scenario where we're going to have to watch as we go, because sometimes it's hard to predict just where these atmospheric rivers are going to set up exactly. So you don't want to get too caught up in the details for individual locations just yet. We'll go ahead and watch this. We still have a couple days to figure out what the biggest flooding is going to happen. We haven't started to warm things up just yet. And you can see the active weather timeline still here from the Seattle National Weather Service. Again, tomorrow is going to be the, biggest impacts across the higher terrain. Big winds, big mountain snows. And as we go on into Sunday, Monday, those snows at least are going to be dying off, but then we could have flooding concerns and landslide concerns, rock slides, all kinds of stuff like that. And Tuesday, Wednesday, you could have some lower elevation flooding as well, maybe through the I-5 corridor and the Puget Sound down into Willamette Valley and some of the Oregon coast, especially the Olympic Mountains, rivers running off them, those mountains as well. It's going to be a pretty nasty scene probably as we go through the mid portion of next week. Looking at 7-day precipitation totals here, you can see what I showed you earlier there with the big amounts. Here's the 6 to 10 day, probably going to be above average. And I want to take a quick look here at the extended forecast. This is the GFS hot off the presses. There goes our windy system tonight, big mountain snows. Then we bring Sunday's system in there, and then the big atmospheric river strikes us as we go in through the mid portion of next week. And you kind of see that hang on for a bit. And the GFS tries to build a little ridge, but it says don't get too attached to that ridge there because the Gulf of Alaska troughing looks to remain somewhat active here as we go on in through the mid portion of December. But we have plenty of time to look at that and watch that as we go. So anyway, sorry if I'm speeding through here a little bit here. My voice breaking a little bit after a long day at work here, but hope you guys are liking these videos. I'll do my daily briefing again tomorrow. If things start getting crazy tonight, I may do a live stream and just kind of go out and see what the winds are doing and whatnot. But anyway, so stay safe tonight. Watch out. Try to avoid travel tomorrow across the passes, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.